Alright, so this is the video that I promised in the traditional animation setup video that I did. It basically just, that video basically just goes over how you can create your own traditional animation setup for a pretty low price. And it's what I use to create my animated series, amongst other things, and I still use to this day, and I really enjoy it. And like I said, it's quite affordable, I believe. If you're interested in that, the link to that video is in the description. Now this one is specifically about the scan settings that I use with my scanner, which is a Canon R40, and the native software that comes with it, the Capture On Touch V4, okay, to transfer my traditional animation into a digital format. Now, I've done this in a few different ways, so I'll go over both the old way that I did it as well as the current way that I do it, and also how I came upon these settings so that you can hopefully find your settings that you might want to use, okay? That's something that I really wanted to do with this video, was kind of give options and tools so that you could find the one that fits for your needs and your project and how you want it to look, okay? As well as to be able to adapt it to different things. As you can see, I have quite a few different settings. Number 1 and number 2 just came with the scanner software, but all the rest are different ones that I've done for different purposes, okay? That may or may not be labeled in an appropriate fashion. But, so let's jump right into it. So how I do my animation is that I start with something that looks like this. So it's going to be a pencil, and sometimes there will be some red kohl erase beneath it, which is that red pencil. For my old way, what I did was that I took that pencil and made it my final line art for the animation, okay? So what I needed to do, I had these goals in mind. I needed to make the background a pure white so that I could color beneath it. I needed to get rid of the red so that I got rid of the sketch below it. And I also wanted to boost the pencil so that I could use it as line art without losing that pencil look that I really liked. So a little bit of that sketchiness. And this is what I came up with, okay? So I would say I pretty much achieved all of those goals with these settings. Background's white, I can color underneath it, as you can see with this. And I actually don't even have that many grains. Sometimes I'll end up with a little bit of grains if I had to erase or something. So that's pretty cool. And the pencil got darkened, but I don't think overly so, and the red is gone. So how I came upon those, well, first let's just go through the settings real quick. So using this, I use the advanced settings. I put it in grayscale. It's 600 dpi, but really you don't need to go that high. 300 dpi is just fine. Skew has to do with making sure that the papers are aligned. I went ahead and used that because it works actually quite well in this software. I actually lowered the brightness, I believe, to keep those gray tones, but I upped the contrast, okay, quite a bit to get the look that I wanted. For image processing, I really pushed up the sharp a bunch because I kind of like that harsher feeling. I didn't want it to soften up those edges too much. I dropped out the red using the color dropout. I removed shadow, which is removing the paper shadow for it. And then feed is just kind of like how it detects it. And then high quality, I leaned more towards versus high compression. The only other adjustment that I made was to rotate it by -90 degrees, just so that it would be the correct orientation for when I popped it into my program, which is more of a workflow thing, just so I didn't have to rotate it afterwards. Okay. Now, however, I'll bring this up again. I still usually start with this. Actually, this is from the newest episode. This is actually a storyboard from the newest episode, but I'm using it as an example. I still start with this normally, though sometimes actually I haven't even been using the red kohl erase, but who knows, maybe I will in the future again. It's helpful. But now I actually just adjust it to this level. So you can see there's still a little bit of the paper shadow, okay? The red is dropped out, however, but it looks a lot more like a gentler pencil, okay? Which I like the look of a lot, especially when I'm posting pencil tests and such. It's cool. I like it. I like it a lot. But the reason for this, and the reason I don't mind the gray so much, because this gray would not color very well. If I do a real quick example, with like Fill Bucket, is it gonna prove me wrong? It may have proved me wrong. And that's okay. Oh yeah, there's a little bit. So it's not quite coloring in some of these places very nicely. What happens if I do that? Huh. Well, it actually works pretty well. Okay, but there is a little bit of that grayness that you can see. It's not like it's pure white, which would change the colors. Well, yeah, if you kind of looked at that and versus that, where it is more of a pure white, there could be shadows that would appear during the animation. But the reason I don't mind that, and I don't mind some of these smudges around the page, is because now I've gone to scanning this in and then doing the line art digitally for a few reasons that I won't go totally into right now. There, okay. That I won't go totally into right now. So basically, I just take the scan, I reduce the opacity, and then as you can see, I do my line art that way with this digital brush, which looks like a pencil, which is very nice. Part of the reason, though, is that it does color a lot better. So even if my example was maybe not the greatest, there have been times where the graininess of the real pencil does get in the way of coloring, and it kind of confuses the Fill Bucket a little bit, and there were some parts that didn't color very well, or it took a long time for it to load and detect it. So that's just kind of my personal reasons for it. But yeah, so those are the same things. As far as the scan settings that I did for that, basically they were all identical except, so let me jump to it would be this one, Animation Pencil. My amazing title. Animation versus Animation Pencil. Okay, pretty much all I did, so 300 DPI switch to, is that I just reduced the contrast a bit. Okay, so that's all I did. Another reason that I did that actually was so that you could see these holes a lot better. So you see that those are a lot more gray than they are right here. They're almost purely white. Reason for that is so that I can use TV Paint's peg registration and it's able to read it. Okay, if it was pure white in the back, my computer explodes. Not really, but like it wants to. And I can't let it do that because it still has like an hour and a half of footage left to do. Okay, so we got that. So those are my settings. Now, how did I come across them? Well, I put them in a tournament to the death. Not really. We're not about violence here. Okay. But basically what I did was that I just took each variable. So for example, brightness or contrast. And I just took one of them, okay? Only take one variable at a time. I took brightness, I adjusted it, I scanned the same image over and over and over again. I saw if it got it closer to where I wanted it to be or further away from where I wanted it to be, okay? Then I took the next setting, contrast, moved it up or down. Did it get it closer? Did it get it further away? I would add with that, it would be good to have an idea or at least a basic idea of what you're looking for, so that you're not just kind of adjusting settings on the fly, maybe without a whole lot of direction, okay? But yeah, take them one at a time. Adjusted then the softer sharpness. See, again, if it's the quality that you want, okay? But again, do one setting at a time or else it can be a nightmare, all right? It is a time-consuming process, but it's very much so worth it. And it's what has helped me to find all these other settings, as well as just get to know the settings on your scanner, which can be really, really helpful. Once again, if you're going to be scanning different things, or if maybe you'd want a different look, you kind of know what to do. Now, as far as really basic settings that I would say helped me the most, brightness, contrast, soft versus sharp. There should be settings, I would say, in most scanners for that. And then, of course, if you want any like color dropout, those were the biggest things that affected it as far as the look of the final image. So yeah, that's gonna be about the video. Again, I hope that this was helpful. To see, I had no clue what I was doing when I was like, I want to do traditional animation and I want to scan it in and color it too. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will do my absolute best to answer them. I'm definitely no expert, but I definitely have a lot of experience with working with this. So I hope you have an awesome day. Go have fun animating. It's super, super fun. Tell your stories. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya!